Last week, Emirates Airlines announced the suspension of its flight operations in Nigeria from September 1, following its inability to repatriate its funds. International carriers operating in the country have repeatedly complained about their inability to repatriate funds to their home countries. However, reprieve may soon come the way of the foreign airlines whose funds are trapped in the country, as the federal government has assured them it is doing everything possible to ensure the release of the $464 million earnings. Joining us now on the Morning Show as we discuss this assurance by the federal government is Dr. Okonkwo, Chairman, United Nigeria Airlines and spokesperson, Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON. He'll be joined by Akpan, Managing Director of Flights and Logistics Solution. Welcome to the Morning Show, Dr. Okonkwo and Mr. Akpan. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Robert. I didn't know I'll be back so soon.
You're welcome. Well, very quickly, let's start with the foreign airlines. On one hand, you have Emirates Airlines saying it's going to suspend operations by September 1 if it's not given the opportunity to repatriate its funds. You also have Turkish Airlines that says, look, there will just be a restriction in terms of category of our tickets that Nigerian passengers can access. Do these international airlines, do they have a case, a strong case, on the basis of their agreements with Nigeria, or this is just a case of blackmail as some stakeholders within the airline community are alleging? Both of you. I'll go with you first.
Thank you. Yes, I am one of those who share the opinion that this is just blackmail, because I've said in this studio that their funds are not trapped. Their funds are in their accounts, and they can use it in any other creative way to have value for them. I do not have any problem if there is an easy way they can transfer their funds to their home country, but it is important to know that there have been a very sudden spike in the prices of air travel tickets, and I want to believe that this is associated with the rate of exchange rate value which they are applying, because if they are using over 800 naira or 700 naira to a dollar to compute the cost of their ticket, then they should be able also to take advantage of some other windows for transfer, which is the I and E windows, which I've said repeatedly. And in that case, it does not require blaming CBN. You see, it is important also that companies that are operating there from foreign countries should be able also show respect to our institutions. CBN is an institution of government that make policy about all these fund issue, and with the local operators also, we're caught in the same fate. We do not have as much funds as we need to get the basic issues of spare parts and routine maintenance, so we're scampering from here and there. It is unfortunate that in this country we have much difference between the official exchange rate and the parallel market. If it is where the margin is so close, nobody should just be complaining. They can just walk across the next place and get their money transmitted. But I think they just want to maximize their profit. In the course of doing that, it doesn't require any scandal, it doesn't require any blackmail, and they must be done with pure respect to our institution and our government. This is what we call in aviation politics, and some little bit of diplomacy too.
Okay, Mr. Akpan, let me come to you. Do you agree with Dr. Okonkwo that this is all about aviation politics, considering the fact that the NCAA, the Civil Aviation Authority of Nigeria, says, look, the claim is legitimate, and the IATA, has also been quoted as saying, look, there's nothing wrong in what the airlines are asking for, they are engaged in business and they should be able to take out their profit. But what do you think? Is it politics or are there concrete issues? Now that the federal government were told is going to address the issue and meet the demands of the foreign airlines, what will you advise the federal government?
Good morning, Dr. Abati and Mr. Efeni.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's very complex. It is not complex. It's simple. The issue of repatriation of funds by the foreign airlines is enshrined in the bilateral air services agreement. So it's agreed to. It's an agreement between the government of Nigeria and the state they signed the agreement with, which is normally operated by the airlines. And so you have to honor the agreement because it's an international trade agreement. So it's not an issue of politics. It's a gentleman's agreement. You ask somebody to sell tickets in your local currency at an exchange rate, which is fixed by your central bank. They sell the tickets, and it's, you also ask as a requirement after selling the tickets that they should show evidence of payment of tax, salaries, aviation fuel bills, handling company bills, Nigerian airspace management, overflight and navigational bills, Federal Airport Authority bills. They provide all this evidence to you. And inside the agreement that you signed in the bilateral air services agreement, it was said that after they have given all this evidence of local expenses, the remaining funds should be repatriated so that they can continue to fund their entire operations. It's as simple as that. And so it's time for them to repatriate these funds, and our federal government, the central bank, is saying that they don't have the foreign currency to pay for the repatriation of these funds. It is not an issue that is limited to Nigeria in terms of the general world economy today. So countries have difficulties in earning incomes, but it does not mean that this agreement should not hold and we should not honor this agreement. What we need to do is sit down with the parties that we agreed to and resolve it amicably like they are trying to do now. It's not, we should not bring in other issues like politics. Of course, politics is involved in every part of our lives, but this is a very clear and straightforward agreement, an arrangement that should be honored.
Okay, if I may just come back to Dr. Okonkwo, who seemed to see politics in the clamor by the foreign airlines. The amount we're talking about is $464 million. But aviation experts have calculated that if these foreign airlines make good their threats and indeed pull out, Nigeria will be losing as much as $1.36 billion. So it really not make sense that looking at both ends of it, the federal government is right in trying and assuring these airlines that indeed they will ensure that they are able to repatriate their money, looking beyond politics.
I really don't know where those figures are coming from. They might be correct, but I repeat, there is no violation of any sort in this BASA agreement. CBN do not regulate how much they sell their ticket. CBN has made a public information, giving public notice. There is scarcity of foreign exchange. Go source from parallel markets. There are many parallel markets. We do source from I&E windows. The only difference is that when you have to buy from CBN, it could be coming about 450. And then when you have to go to the parallel market I&E window, you have to negotiate. It could be 600 and something naira. If we, the local operators, can do that, what has anybody done to offend BASA agreement when you are asked to go source other places? Their money is not confiscated. Nobody says they should not repatriate, but it just simply go to other sources. Why do they not want to do it? So I am happy that they're calling a meeting, but I hope the agenda will include how much you are selling your ticket, because their tickets are priced in Naira and then converted to US. Their tickets are priced, first of all, in foreign currency and then converted in Naira. So as long as their ticket is $5,000 and the value Nigerians are paying for it is about 2.5 million, that is about 450 Naira, then they might have a legitimate case to say, we are bounded by this rate. But as long as they are free, as anybody is free to fix a ticket at a rate that will enable your business, move on. You can't sell at the rate of 700 or 800 Naira and come back and want to transmit your money at 450 Naira. I think that's just what CBN is trying to protect, and we should give them kudos for that. We don't have, and there, again, when we talk about this, it looks as if they have not been getting. Last 2 weeks, there was huge chunk of money that was made available for Emirates in particular. And I know we kicked against it because we have a lot of invoices lined up in different banks. Emirates had all this. And then if they don't have it quickly and as much as they want, it's affecting everybody. Today, manufacturers go to the bank, put in an invoice of $1 million, they might be given $50,000. Well, it's the situation we find ourselves in. It's not CBN issue. They can only give what is in the coffers. But my concern is that nobody says you can't take your money out. This is a very, very lucrative route for these airlines. So at good times, they have enjoyed us. And when we have a bad time, they should show some love. They should be patriotic. So what we expect now is some patience. We don't need these scandalous headlines all over the world. IATA has spoken. Yes, they have to speak. They have to protect their members, including United Nigeria, including Air Peace, including other members of IATA. But that's what it is. But I do not just want, when they speak, then the big CBN governor is invited and insists in a meeting with some desk officers and their companies, and then they are facing some queries. We deserve some respect because we also know what we go through in their countries, and we don't even see anybody to talk to. So my thing is, nobody's money is confiscated. They have access. And in fact, in situations like this, they could have a more creative way of spending their money. If there are bills that are paying in foreign currency in Nigeria, they can negotiate with NCA or other authorities to give them waiver so that they can use Naira to pay for these bills. I know, for instance, when they go for their plat hedging of fuel, the fuel marketers love to get foreign exchange from foreign airlines so that they can use it also for importation. In this special situation, there could be a creative way, sit around the table and give them special authorization to pay for fuel in Naira. So when these things are done, it might reduce the excesses they have, and then before you know it, it might be easier to get them across. But as far as I'm concerned, there are other sources of exchange, I and A window. It is absolute misinformation. It is absolutely wrong to say they can access their money. The only difference here is that they think that the difference between I and A window is too much from the CBN rate. We want CBN rate. Everybody wants CBN rate. But when you don't, if you have to get things done, you get things done. Especially when you have reflected this accurately and substantially in the rate of your conversion. That is the only thing the air operators of Nigeria are worried about and are advising us that is a misleading information. There's no money that is trapped. Money in my account, under my control, that I can do what I can do with it is not trapped. That's the wrong information. And BASA agreement did not define or stipulate how much exchange rate you have to use. If we fly to other countries and they have inflation, you can only adjust and apply the inflationary cost of exchange. You can't come back and demand, I want my rate in this section. I can tell you that if they want 400 million US dollars today, and they talk to 2 or 3 of their banks, they can get an iron window at maybe a rate of 700 naira, and this will be over. If we can do that, why should they not do it? So we are watching. If CBN should give them $460 million, we'll be happy. We know the money is there. And then we put up our bills, which is already landing. They should also give us, we're airline, we're operating, and they cannot be given preferential rates.
Okay, in general, it looks like there's some kind of unhealthy rivalry between the foreign airlines and the domestic airlines. And I would like both of you, as briefly as possible, to comment on that. Because since the statements from Emirates and the others and Turkish Airlines, there's been a group within the airline operators of Nigeria fighting back and expressing exactly the same sentiments that you have just expressed. So what is the cause of this rivalry? Was there a time that maybe the CBN, for example, asked the foreign airlines to go to the parallel market? Did that ever happen at any particular time? And then, of course, there's this talk about the bilateral air services agreement. I saw a statement, I think issued by Dr. Mike Iwi, in which he was saying, look, airplanes cannot go to London and operate a certain number of flights, but foreign airlines will be coming to Nigeria operating 21 flights per week, and that there's injustice in the industry. If you could break down the source of this conflict and the role of the CBN in all of this. We'll come back to you, Dr. Okonkwo, for you to catch your breath. Mr. Akpan, you can go first.
Thank you. Clearly, there is need for equity and fair play. The bilateral air services agreement as it's operated now is skewed to favor the foreign airline operators more than the Nigerian airline operators. You have a situation where Emirates is operating 21 flights into Nigeria, and it took a lot of rancor for APs to be given 3 slots into Dubai a week. And the same thing, British Airways is flying to Lagos and Abuja 7 days all around the year. And APs is ready to go to London. Asman Air, there are airlines here that are ready to go to London Heathrow, and they're having difficulties assessing that traffic. So clearly that's inequality, inequity distribution in the way our government is making sure that we exploit the agreements. And then you have a situation where our same ministry is designating these airlines to fly beyond the major entry airports like Abuja and Lagos into Port Harcourt, into Kanu, into Kaduna, into Enugu. And these are points that our domestic airlines should take over from these foreign carriers. We should, and Air France, British Airways should terminate in Lagos, and then United Airlines, APs, Asman Air should continue into the other airports within Nigeria. This is what should happen. So that is an issue, and if it's not resolved, it will continue to create tension in the system. I agree very well that the scarcity of foreign exchange for all the demands that is needed. But on the issue, is not enshrined in the bilateral air service agreement as Dr. Obira has explained, but inside the protocols of the operations, IATA issues rates for airlines. If I'm going to buy a Turkish airline ticket, IATA issues rates, and the Turkish airline will not go beyond that rate. say if I'm buying that ticket at 500 or 450 naira, the exchange rate for that prevailing day, and all the sales for that day has that exchange rate, and then it's now time for me to repatriate, and they're saying I should go and buy in the market at 800, parallel market at 800 naira. That's a lot of money to lose, and so it creates problem for the foreign airlines, the international airlines. What we need to understand is that the domestic airlines and the commercial airlines play very critical factors in the success of our aviation industry. As at today, about 70% of the commercial aviation earnings come from the foreign airline operations. And we need to step up the domestic airlines to also be able to earn by designating them to international territories that have patronage that can also yield income. This foreign exchange we are looking for, if 7 flights a week is operated by a Nigerian carrier to Heathrow, it will end the foreign exchange that is required and will reduce the pressure on the demand. This same goes for Dubai, same goes for Mumbai, same goes for Houston, and so on. So it's important that we balance this distribution of the platform for which these businesses operate on. Equity is really important. So it is tilted now in favor of the foreign airlines to the disfavor of the Nigerian domestic operations. That must be clearly understood. And having said that, what we need to understand is that aero politics is important. We need to step up the way we present our aviation industry. The image is not looking good, as it were, saying that we are unable to allow foreign operators repatriate funds. It's not good for the image of the industry. It's also not good for us to allow them to stop operations or cut the operations drastically to the extent that our people would have to, our Nigerian traveling public will have to go to the neighboring countries to fly. That is not also good for the income of our country. And so we have to balance it. And I'm happy that we are negotiating and discussing how to resolve the issues. It is not a central bank specific problem. It is not central bank specific problem. The central bank can only give what it has for any sector that requires it. And there are so many sectors demanding foreign currency from the central bank. So it's not a central bank. It is the industry that would sit down, the managers of the industry that would sit down and fashion out how to resolve the issue amongst the operators and the policymakers.
Mr. Akpan, Dr. Okonkwo, I wanted you to react to these issues and maybe offer clarification about the CBN in all of this. Because I thought you said, these foreign airlines, why didn't they go to the parallel market? Even the CBN of Nigeria does not recognize the parallel market that is often referred to. What the CBN approves of, recognizes, is the I and E window. And if you could also talk around this rivalry, very toxic rivalry between domestic airlines and foreign airlines in Nigeria.
Honestly, Ruben, there is nothing like rivalry, but we find it a responsibility and obligation to clarify certain wrong information that have been passed to the public regarding this remittance of foreign airline funds. So we're in the industry and we will not want our public to be misinformed. There's no rivalry. We don't fly the same route. These guys are that big and we're still local here, most of us. So there's no rivalry at all. But we can't just anymore sit back in this sector and allow people just come in and do what they want and misinterpret BASA. The basic principle of BASA is equity. You give me five touchdowns, 5 locations. I give you 5. Emirates comes here 21 times a week. And you know what it took Air Peace to go to Dubai. Now, the last speaker has said Air Peace can't even go to London. The last communication in our meeting reported by Air Peace he got from UK government is that don't write us until we write you. And today, people complain and there's someone in a meeting. Why can't Air Peace go to London? The same Air Peace has 3 777. And out of these 2 777 is the same exact thing bought by Emirates. They paid XX, so they had 2 to go, and Air Peace took it exactly from there, the same aircraft. And once you are IOSA certified airline, you can fly to anywhere in the world. So when it has to do with the issue of BASA, Nigeria is the most generous to afford, to the detriment of the local operators. So they could not even bring issue of BASA. But what if today the official rate is matched and our money got so inflated that we are now have $1 for 1,000 naira? What would they do? They have adjusted this ticket. And this notification by CBN is not only to foreign airlines. It is to manufacturers, it is to hospitals, even for students who are paying bills overseas. Today, if you want to travel with PTA, they give you only $2,500, which you know doesn't even pay your hotel bills. You have to source for another place. I&A window is an official source of foreign exchange. Call it parallel market, call it IIE, and they know that it exists. And as far as I know, IATA doesn't regulate your fare. They don't fix your fare. Even if they fix your fare in US dollars, they don't fix your local currency rate. Like I have said, when these people come to make claim of this $460 million, I would like Nigerian government or the agency involved to make a request. What is your foreign exchange rate for this ticket and what is your conversion rate? And then when they present it, we airline operators of Nigeria will not stand by and see people exploiting the federal government or depleting our scarce resources with CNN or even exploiting the passengers. The same 5 or 6 hours flight from Ghana to London, you might be buying a business class for maybe $5,000. By the time you touch it in Nigeria, you might be paying double. That's actually the main reason people pass from here to Ghana to travel, because the cost of flying business class from Nigeria will buy you a first class ticket in London. Why are these people charging Nigeria so much? I want, in the course of this discussion of this issue of $460 million, I want it to be part of the agenda. They need to explain to us, because in aviation industry, 1 hour flight fuel consumption is the same. The only difference is maybe different landing charge in London or different landing charge in Ghana, but the rest is the same. I can assure you that if Air Peace goes to London today, Nigerians will be flying to London with an economy ticket of 500,000 naira. Today it's about 2 million naira. Why should we pay that much? If they are converting this as 450 naira, we owed our public this explanation. But however, no matter what is going on, this is a wake-up call that the local or indigenous operators have to be supported. They have all it takes to operate internationally. Even Emirates, you have said in this studio that Emirates just had about $5.something billion US support from the government. So when we ask of support, it's not a dash money. American Airline, as you may know, it has over, has equity of about 60-something billion US dollars, and the debt profile of over 70 billion US dollars. And those debts all coming from government support. If the local airlines are supported, we can build the capacity that nobody will threaten us that they will stop. What are you stopping? You put in aircraft, people fill in and you go. This is a lucrative route for these people, for this, especially Emirates. If it's lucrative, show this country some love, show our institutions some respect. We should learn how to play this aviation politics. Thank God to Minister of Aviation, who came very hard on Emirates when it was the case of Airpeace. If he didn't step up to the occasion, Airpeace would have been here with the triple aircraft flying down, and they will be flying up and down. And let me tell you, the easiest flight to operate is a long haul. This issue of 1 hour of Lagos, then next 45 minutes you are in Abuja, is very difficult. It's stressful to the aircraft, it's stressful to the cabin crew. It is easier to go from here to London. It is easier in every aspect of operation. There's no big deal. And aviation is the same all over the world. You are audited by IOSA, you're audited by IATA, and that's it. You can go anywhere. But they prevent us and make us look bad. There's nothing wrong about it. And they know that our quality, our regulatory standards internally are higher. We get crews, we get pilots and captains coming from overseas. They fail our exams, and we send them back. I've said it the other day. Captains come here, and we reduce them to first officer seats. So this is not a big deal. So let Nigerians don't think that this is a rocket science. The only thing is that we are being outplayed politically. And I don't think that our embassies overseas have this understanding of even the politics of aviation. You might be surprised that people who are making these calls to CBN or National Assembly might be coming from the embassies of these countries. Open up this route. Support the aviation, the local aviators. We take this route. If they don't fly, we fly. Okay. And they know the good news. Okay, Doctor, at the end of the day, the whole money they're talking about should be domesticated in Nigeria. There's nothing to repatriate. We will only be now using minimum money for maintenance and spare parts. That's what we need, not only in the aviation sector, but also in oil sector.
Okay, Dr. Biora, let me just come in there. Let me come in.
Find the crew and bring them back. We're exporting.
Now, all you have been saying, good talk. Let me tell you, the equity and you are asking for in the BASA implementation.
The amount of money we're talking about.
Dr. Biora, are you with me?
None of them has direct labor up to 20% of what I have in my small United Nigeria. None of them. None of them. When you have these billions they're talking about, there's no direct employment here.
Dr. Biora, can I come in here?
Emirates may just have very few. They don't even have 20% of what I have. Talk less of Airpeace. We deserve some respect. So this threat of this stopping, we want them to fly. And I know they will not stop. They will fly. If we don't have money to give, say, okay, guys, try as much as you can. Help us when you can. And don't threaten. We don't like these headlines. All right? We don't like it. That's our concern with Airline. And we see it as a duty to explain to the Nigerian public. And also to let the federal government know that there are specific questions we have to ask.
Biora,
how much are you selling your ticket?
Please. Yes, okay, if I may just ask my own question now. Now, what Dr. Biora seems to be hammering on is the inequity in the implementation of BASA. A situation where these are left to the airlines to sort out. Airpeace writing to the UK authorities and others. I think the government should play more role here. Because like you cited in the case of Airpeace, when the minister put down his foot on the issue of Airpeace going to Dubai, we got some concessions. Perhaps the government need to do more in ensuring that Nigerians are not exploited, because when you have only foreign airlines doing Nigeria, London, of course, it will be as high as the fix. But if you have Nigerian airlines like Air Peace on that route, then perhaps there will be more equity in the amount Nigerians pay as ticket fares. So what should the government be doing now in ensuring that this BASA agreement are implemented with equity, which you have canvassed? Then the other issue you raise, that these airlines, they fix their tickets in dollars and convert with the parallel market rate to sell tickets to Nigeria, if I got you right. Now they want concession to take their money out of the country. So if they use parallel market rates to sell their tickets, they should be able to source their foreign currency from in window and any other source. Their bank will help them. So you put it. That's what you're saying. But you also made suggestions that because they also buy aviation fuel in dollars, they pay their other charges in dollars, perhaps they should be encouraged, or the government should give them concessions to pay these bills in naira so that they won't have much complaint. So you are saying that the federal government, beyond assurance, has so much to do in terms of making concessions that they should pay in their bills in naira, and the fact that they can source their revenue, their forex from other sources. But the most important thing I want you to not dwell on, what role should government play now, especially since they are calling these airlines to come for discussion, giving them assurances as regards the equity in the implementation of BASA.
Okay. Is that to me?
Yeah,
can I take that?
Both of you. But maybe you want to go first, Dr. Okonkwo.
Okay. I think that the government, first of all, should demand respect. I do not support the idea of sending desk officers or station managers of these foreign airlines to go to National Assembly to sit alongside our speaker or CBN governor or even a director from CBN. If they are sending their top executives and they come back here and come down here, then they should talk. They should now give them the people of the equivalent to talk. There is no stress about this. And the only advice is, hey, make your adjustment with the prevailing exchange rate so that it will be easier for you to convert your money, especially if you have not started doing that. And then they will seize the opportunity to demand for full components of what makes up their ticket cost. We operators, airline operators of Nigeria, still believe Nigerians are being exploited. We are paying too much. If you are flying from South Africa to London, it's about 9 hours flight. You are flying from Nigeria to South Africa, it's about 6 hours. I mean, to London, it's about 6 hours. And you are paying a lot more than when you are making a 9 hours flight. Why? They will tell you it's because of the exchange rate. And when you finish talking about this exchange rate, still come back to us of 450 naira. And my advice is that they should be known that CBN should be left out of this. They should respect the policy of the government. The CBN has made a policy and or even school fees, even medical bills. They've said this is the way it is. Why are they twisting government through scandalous and big headlines? So this is our position in operators of Nigeria. And then they must demand from them to give us the same landing right. If British Airways comes here 7 times, they should give us 7 times. If Emirates comes here 21 times, they should give us 21 times. That's the only thing BASA is talking about. Beyond that, it's not about what rate you sell your ticket or what rate you convert your money. Every other thing, you are subjected to the internal rules, regulations, and laws of the country where you're operating. Why are they trying to operate above the law?
Okay, Dr. Biora. Dr. Biora, because we have limited time, I would like to bring Mr. Akpan back into the conversation. And just two quick things. The first is this. Do we really have the capacity to meet our own end of the bargain with regard to bilateral air services agreement that Dr. Okonkwo has dwelt on extensively? Yes, he has mentioned the Air Peace. Air Peace has the capacity to go to London. But Air Peace is just one domestic airline with capacity. How about the others? And this is a foreign policy, government to government consideration. Do we have that capacity? The second thing, Nigerians are going to Ghana and neighboring countries. You, Mr. Akpan, you alluded to it, and it was reported in the papers yesterday. Okay, is it the foreign airlines we should blame, or the fact that taxes and levies in Nigeria for air travel are about the highest in the whole of Africa? And so, who should we blame? Should we blame the foreign airlines if our own authorities are not offering competitive rates? Mr. Akpan.
Thank you. There are a lot of things we should not overlook. One of them is that aviation, international trade, international designations, international operations, aviation is one, is single. It, what obtains in Nigeria obtains in other parts of the world. And so every country has an interest to protect. You cannot divulge some politics from international trade. So in international airline operations, each country, each government protects, they have an interest to protect. The Emirates, that's in discussion today, is part of the entire design of the United Arab Emirates for their own economic policy. So the Emirates is not just here for the purpose of just coming as one private airline, one private operator that is coming to exploit the existing agreement. It's part of the design of the government of United Arab Emirates under their trade policy in terms of tourism and transit program, trade, and shopping around Dubai. So it's attached to their budgets. So we must understand this so that when our leaders, our policy implementers are going to negotiate, they must have our interests already designed and focus on it to protect it. And so it's not an issue for the airline manager or the director to go and negotiate. It is an issue for the Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Aviation to actually drive. And they take the interests of the airline into consideration and the overall contribution of the airline to the GDP of the country. They take that into consideration and go and negotiate. So that will align us into understanding all the nitty-gritties we're talking about, reciprocity in bilateral agreement, executing the bilateral agreements. Now, in the issue of capacity, we also have to understand that, let me illustrate. For instance, if you want Air France to terminate in Lagos and then a domestic airline connects the Air France passengers to Kaduna and to Calabar, for instance, and they have to key into the system of Air France. They have to build a schedule reliability that keys into it. And there are headwinds, obstacles. The Nigerian Airspace Management have to understand that these passengers that are leaving Kaduna or Calabar to join Air France in Lagos have a time fixed. They have been checked through all the way to Charles de Gaulle. And so the limitation of landing in terms of feasibility has to be removed. So yes, you are correct. We have to do the groundwork. Our systems has to be such that it can integrate into international systems. Our accountability systems, our electronic checking-in systems, our airfield operational reliabilities in terms of accepting flights has to. Now we have a lot of limitations that affects our domestic operators and hinders their ability to perform. And some airfields in Nigeria, you might not even find fuel without notice when you want to operate to it. So these are all part of capacity. In terms of taxes, the federal government has given concession on VAT to domestic airline operators. They are trying to look at the tariff on the spare parts have been removed. Most of the spare parts, the tariff have been removed. They're trying to meet their demands in this area. There will be multiplicity of taxes. There also has to be looked at on the issue of state and local government taxes. I mean, you're operating in Lagos. You have to pay Lagos state revenue tax. You have to pay federal government tax. Then you have to come to VAT, which is now being scrapped and so on. Yes, and then you pay for every step of the way, all the way to the final departure of the aircraft. So we have to understand that. But the bills, in terms of aviation standard billings, they are the same, and they are not. Nigeria is not the highest. If you operate to other West African countries, their bills, their navigational charges, and their aviation bills are higher than what Nigeria charges, and that makes it very difficult for the West African operations to be profitable for our Nigerian operators. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. So I say, yes, capacity. We need to build capacity, because at the rates for which the international airlines are having finances to lease aircraft and spare part stocks is in single digits. Our airlines can hardly have such rates. And so we need to look at it and need to put this down so as to prepare our airlines to have the capacity to be able to compete in the international arena. And so when they go in, if you give somebody 7 slots, he's able to acquire the equipment, able to sustain the operations and compete and bring back the foreign exchange that we so heavily need. Yes, capacity is an issue. Multiple taxation is being addressed, and the AON, the Airline Operators of Nigeria, can testify, can verify that they are having some concessions in this area, and it's being continuously discussed and should continuously be discussed. And the interest of Nigeria should be taken care of by the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Ministry of Aviation in discussing bilateral air service agreement. We should articulate it in such a way that we know what we are going to gain from each of these agreements and deliberately execute it into making sure that we designate our airlines to reciprocate, because reciprocity is very important. And so we build the capacity for our domestic operators. This is a commercial business. We must understand this. And so we must create the platform for the people to succeed, bringing in money to come and operate. Since the 90s, it has been private driven. And so the platform for the success is really key for the success of the industry. And let me just mention, in the issue of foreign, we should not ignore the issue that most of the agencies are earning foreign currencies. Where are these foreign currencies? Nigerian Airspace Management, Federal Airports Authority, NCAA, and the fuel companies. They are charging in foreign currency. And we know that the budget that is operated in Nigeria is not operated with foreign currencies. So when an agency of government earns a lot of money in foreign currency, in hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign currency, which now is a problem, where are those money? Because they are spending in naira by their budgets, but they are earning the foreign currency. So this foreign currency should be accounted for, because it could augment these deficiencies in foreign currency that we are talking about here. So accountability is also an issue in the agencies.
Gentlemen, okay. We'd like to thank both of you. Dr. Okonkwo, would like to thank you very much. We have to go now. We've spent quite some time on this subject, but I'm sure we'll have another opportunity again to engage you. And thank you also, Mr. Akpan.